the benches, they just want the words, description.
I wrote that down first.
Call the Village of Johnsburg, August 5th regular meeting of the President and Board of Trustees to order at 7 a.m. On the roll, Trustee Morris is absent, Trustee Hagan, Trustee Sylvanus, Trustee Baumann, Trustee Falk, Trustee Wexler. Let's stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
From the floor, Cheryl. The chief is still here.
I live at 1310 Hayden Drive, and they're still saying there's a problem by the boat launch. I did notice that there was a tow sign there, no parking, tow zone, but I think we need a little bit more signs there and maybe a little bit more permanent so that they don't maybe move it and still park there.
So is the problem, there's trailers parked down there that aren't in the parking lot?
Yeah, and George
they're parking
said,
alongside the road?
right, and George said that eventually they're gonna start going by cemeteries and start parking there, because we have the sign, no tow, no parking there, tow zone. But the weekend, it's out of control, it's crazy.
Okay.
So, and my road looks beautiful. Thank you guys.
Well, it was all because of you, Cheryl. We had to take care of our...
I know, mine got done first.
Okay. Chief will look into that on Saturdays and the weekends, and we'll talk to Public Works and see what we can do to make it better. Thanks, Cheryl.
Yeah, but the sign says, no parking, in tow away and stuff like that, but doesn't really explain right there that they should park by the village hall.
Okay.
Doesn't have any kind of...
Well, I think it says that on the sign right by the park, on the post.
Yeah.
So we'll see what we can do to help fix it. Okay, we have a motion to approve on this agenda.
So move.
Motion by Trustee Van Allen.
Go ahead. No.
Second by Trustee Paul. Discussion on the motion. Anybody want to pull anything?
Yeah, if we could pull just move to approve ordinance 2526-10 for just discussion.
Yeah, of course.
Please.
Any other things that want to be pulled? Would there be...
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Scotty.
Could we do that last one, the agreement between Army and the village?
Yes.
I just have a couple questions.
Okay. No problem.
I'm sorry, we don't have to poll the disbursements, but there was a charge in there for golf cart or golf course maintenance, rather. What was that for?
How much was it?
$11,000?
That was for new tee markers at the golf course that we approved. I sold,
Okay.
I'll actually report on that. I sold sponsorship. They're all paid for. 100%.
Okay.
And actually, we got a little bit of profit that will cover it for all the years to come. I know it was hard. It took me all day Saturday, but also. Okay. Everything but the two items pulled. Is there a discussion on that? With there being none, Trustee Hagan. Aye. Trustee Sylvanus.
Aye.
Trustee Van Allen.
Aye.
Trustee Paul. Aye. Trustee Letzker.
Aye.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve ordinance 25-26-10, amending chapter 3.02, police chief, striking 3.02, deputy police chief, and revisiting the letter of the provisions thereafter, amending 4.01, creation of the department, and 4.03, officers of the department, adding 4.03, a police commander, and revising the lettering of the provisions thereafter of the Johnsburg Municipal Code. Can I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Motion by Trustee Van Allen. Second.
Are we talking about it now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, let's like.
Trustee Paul. Discussion on the motion.
Messed up the order.
Okay, go ahead, JD.
Thank you. So with the changes, obviously, just comparing side by side, this, the description, we're getting much more thorough with the description. Is that the big reason for the update in the description, or I guess what's the reason that we are making this change? Specifically, I'm sorry, to the duties of the police chief is what I'm referencing.
We're in the budget, we approved the police.
I think he's asking about the change in the language on the police chief. That's unrelated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Chief, perhaps you
I think
could
you're
address that.
just looking to clean up some of the language. These ordinances, some of them were kind of old. They're older, they haven't been revisited. So we wanted to clarify the duties and authorities under that section and just kind of clean some of those up.
Yeah, I noticed some, like the older one was vague, one or two sentence descriptions, right, versus this definitely goes more in depth. So then, a couple of my follow-up questions. One, at the very bottom was, on the old one was bond, it said at the bottom. I noticed that's not on here. I'm assuming it's like bond insurance, I guess, in my research. Is that accurate? Are we moving that somewhere? Do we not need it?
Claudette or-
You know, I think that was overlooked, and I'm glad
yeah.
you pointed that out. That should remain in that.
Okay.
Yeah, that should not change.
All right. Okay, excellent. So that was one. And then in a few of the line items, they reference the village board, and other ones are just village administrator and village president. I was curious if, just as a, sorry, pull my notes here. Just as an example, line item J, line item M would be one of those examples. Do we think that it's valuable or necessary to add in like board of trustees with that, in addition to village administrator or village president? Or
I think that was consistent with the last language.
It was, yeah, it was. I just didn't know if in making these changes, it makes sense to add that in since we are, or I guess just I don't know, I just wanted to get an opinion on why it would or would not be valuable.
If I'm understanding correctly, Chief, that really addresses more of the daily operations and different things that occur on a daily basis. It's not necessarily a change that would have to come before this board. It really has to do with more of a protocol and reporting, correct?
We're referencing under L and M.
Yeah, well, M specifically, but yeah, so like L references the board, and
This is what he's asking about here.
whether or not that should have, that'd be departure from the...
B would be another example where we add in. So I didn't know if it necessarily would be valuable, like all elected officials, or if that kind of falls under the just president's role and description more specifically than the board.
I think that, well, that's always been, and it's, correct me if I'm wrong, in most cases, that's the day-to-day operations, that's the president's responsibility. It's always been like that, so that's how it works, you know.
And I believe each position is stated that way, so like the same thing for my position too.
Okay. Makes sense. And then, so any other question?
And I would agree with that, right? Because the chief is appointed by the village president and is approved by the village board, right? But I think that the statute doesn't want individuals of the board directing the police chief in for their own reasons without it being some sort of at the direction of during a meeting or something like that, other than the village president.
Okay.
I think.
Nope, that makes sense. I guess that's why I ask questions. And then the last question I had, as far as J, so adding the authority to designate personnel to attend these functions, is that that's in the case of like a vacation, or it's not, it wouldn't be a common thing, right? So the idea is that you're at the board meetings and...
No, I still intend to be at all regular meetings, things like that, but in the event of, if I had an illness, or if I did have some kind of, some obligation where I couldn't attend, I could designate somebody that I feel would be representative of the department to be that resource at those events.
Okay. What's the process now? Is that seat just empty?
I've always been in everything, so I don't know that we have much of a process at this point.
No, that's fair.
Okay, yeah, and then like I said, the bond was my only other question, so that's everything I have. Thank you.
With the commander, were we looking to bring on one or two?
One in the immediate future. I mean, potentially, if the, as the village grows, there may be a need to bring on a second. But for now, at least one, to build that structure.
Is there, do you have somebody there that's ready to move into that position, or are we going to go out looking for somebody?
We're going to go outside, look too, and see where we at. I think there's a benefit towards looking structurally at somebody who has experience and has knowledge of this type of operation and how to build the department and refine it and continue to move it forward.
Is that a typical stepping stone for somebody to become chief?
Yes. This would be building on the structure and ultimately potentially the person that would succeed me. Yes.
We approved that in the budget, and also that was something that was discussed when Keith was chief, I think.
Yeah, we discussed this in 2023, this exact same thing.
So it was all...
But we decided to go with the deputy chief over the commander position.
Okay, with that, on the roll, trustee Hagan.
Aye.
Trustee Sylvanus.
Aye.
Trustee Van Allen.
Aye.
Trustee Falk. Trustee Wetzel. Move to approve agreement between the Department of Army and the Village of Johnsburg for the Dutch Creek Section 206 Aquatic Ecosystem Restoration Study.
I just had a question on Article 3, Section 8. It has the provision of non-federal cost share. And I'm reading it verbatim. The effective date of this agreement, study costs are projected to be $400,000, with the government share, meaning the feds, as cost projected to be $250,000, and the non-federal sponsor, Village of Johnsburg, their projected costs are $150,000, which we talked 75 this year, 75 the following.
Correct.
The only thing there's a sentence here at the end that says, these amounts are estimates only. They are subject to adjustment by the federal government, and not to be construed as the total financial responsibilities of the government, feds, and the non-fed, meaning the Village of Johnsburg. So, just so I understand, if we put 75 down and there's a cost overrun, or they need additional studies, and they say our 75 is, we need 162,000 next year. That's a viable scenario?
It's not real. I asked them that question, whether or not that was realistic. How realistic is that 150,000? And they are very certain with that dollar amount. And certainly anything that would exceed that would be communicated to us, because as they're doing their work, keep in mind that much of this is in-house. They're using their in-house people, and they're trying to recoup their costs. It's not as if, well, we're going to go out to bid and we don't know what these bids are going to come in at. So this is a study phase. I would probably be more concerned about that if we were in the construction phase and it was kind of open-ended, because then, of course, they are going out and using consultants.
It's just that last line is somewhat
we did talk
not ambiguous, but it's open, where to me it's almost like an open purchase order, which is, I've seen them and I've been burned by it. And
Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, we have the ability within this agreement to halt it at any time.
We do. So upon notification to the Army Corps, 30 days notice, we have the right to terminate the agreement and call it a day. So, for example, in the worst case scenario, where government says we need 30,000 more, that may be an issue for the village to say, no, we're not putting any more money above the projected amount, we want to cancel it. That's a risk. We may face that, and I think that at the same time too, my understanding is that the Army Corps is not very open-minded to modifying this to address that concern, to say, this is it. It's 150, it's not 150 projected, it's not 150 estimate, that it may be more, there may be an adjustment. No. So, have I seen the experience I've had with Army Corps contracts in other villages? Has there been a cost overrun that passed on to a municipality? No, but that's in the few instances that I've dealt with this.
Claudette, I have something. What does it also mean, includes credible in-kind contributions projected to be zero? So
At the
there's no
current time.
grants or anything
Well,
available
no,
for
what
this?
they're saying is, at the current time, as we're entering into this, we don't anticipate any in-kind contributions, but that could change. So there could be some study material or information that we have that HR Green's done in the past that we can provide, and then that will offset and decrease our contribution. But at the current time, there hasn't been anything identified yet.
There can be some in-kind land donations too, right?
That's unrelated to this, though. That comes into construction's part.
Okay, I just want to make sure that everybody sitting at this table right now understands it. That's all. I'm fine.
Fine?
I'm good.
Do you want to make a motion to approve it? Because we didn't have a motion.
Yes, I'll make it.
Okay, motion by trustee Lutz.
I'll second.
Second by trustee Hagan. We had a discussion on the motion, so on the roll, trustee Lutzker. Aye. Trustee Paul. Aye. Trustee Van Allen. Aye. Trustee Sylvanus.
Aye.
Trustee Hagan.
Aye.
Motion carried.
On the last one, do we have to add back in that? No, we didn't.
I noted that that's, yeah. I'll make a note that it's being approved.
Bond to remain.
In there.
Got it.
That's
Thank you.
that. Okay. On the president's report, I did mention that we got the new T markers and all the advertisements sold for them, and they're 100% funded by the advertisements and the sponsors. I would like to put a extra thank you into Claudette and Vinny for getting us the website up and running. They spent in many hours on their time and their own time, getting it going. And also the EV readiness program that Vinny and Claudette spent a lot of time on, along with trustee forum, getting that approved. And the chief, if you want to report on the grant, the signs, that is pretty significant that you achieved.
Excited to announce that we were awarded a grant from the Metropolitan News Caucus in conjunction with ComEd for powering safe communities. Our proposal was accepted, and they're going to split the cost of putting in solar-powered radar signs in the school zones, both on Ringwood Road and Church Street. So we'll have signage on both ends of the zones covering St. John's to the administrative side of the junior high, and then also up on Ringwood Road for the high school up there. So that should help a lot with a lot of the complaints we get, a lot of the concerns of the speeding. These are high visibility signs, they're large, and they have also messaging capabilities, which our current ones do not have. So this will be kind of nice to be able to kind of interact a little bit with the community.
Like slow down, you're going too
Yep,
fast.
those types of things, yep, exactly.
And they're permanent for those locations.
These will not be moved. The only thing we might run into is the one at the high school may need to be moved at some point, just with that, because the sidewalk programming that goes in. So there might be a need to move it or temporarily remove it until they complete that, and then we'll reevaluate where to position with that.
Good. That's great.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Concerns?
What's the timeline?
I'm going to begin on this probably next week. I just got the package today, so I'll begin working on that to complete and return to them. And then I have Traffic Logics is the vendor that we utilized for the proposal, and he's coming out, I think next week he'll be out. And then we'll finalize the purchase of 4 signs, and hopefully the prices haven't changed too much since we got this put together. But with everything going on, things have been a little volatile in that regard. But hopefully we're close.
Early in the school year, you're anticipating?
I would hope that it would be a matter of, as soon as we actually place the order, we should see them within, I'd say, 45 days. So we might have them up before the beginning of the school year. It'll be close. Actually, probably not. I'm sorry, we're already in.
It's only 2 weeks away.
Yeah, we're in the summer though. But sometime in the first semester though, I would hope before fall we'll have them in.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Also in your packet, you had I believe, an application for a committee appointment for Mrs., how do you pronounce her name, J.D.?
Ducac.
Ducac, that's right. I think her Ma was on that committee years ago.
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So, did everybody have a chance to look at it, and everybody's okay with it? So, we'll make her formally appointed to your committee. Okay. Move to approve the, as long as we get off the president's report, can we make an announcement? We got new business owners here tonight? Is that true? Or what? Yeah? You want to introduce yourself? Everybody knows John and Isabella, but...
Diane Walsh.
Mike Prusky.
And these 4 people are going to be the proud owners, I heard, of the Backyard Bar and Grill, right?
Where's that
Congratulations. Cabanas. Used to be Cabanas.
Lucky's, Cabanas, Backyards, Lakeside.
Harmony.
Harmony, yeah, Harmony, go way back.
Are you guys keeping the same name?
Well, congrats. Yeah, congratulations. What's your anticipated timeline?
When did you take over?
What's your anticipated timeline?
Hopefully September. Yeah, it just depends on getting everything together so we can.
Yeah.
Okay. Encourage you to apply for a liquor license.
Yeah, I was going to say, so if you're,
That's, I think, what he's...
it takes a little bit of time, and if you guys are starting a new entity, then you gotta
Yeah. We need you
keep that
first.
going.
Is this still Old Lake House?
No, I urge you to get it and apply for that right away, get the background checks done, because it does
So we were
take...
told it was going to be approved today, or in a
At
discussion.
the meeting today.
Yeah,
Liquor license?
yeah.
Who told you that?
I don't want to call people up. Vinny, when I talked to him, he said...
Well, there has to be background checks and the formality.
That's all done. It was done.
Oh, you got it all done?
Everything's in
Okay,
there.
well, if Vinny did it, so has the background checks been done? Do you know, Chief?
We submitted it. I don't know if we've received a report or not yet from the
Okay,
state, but I
but
can...
that's all been done already? Okay,
Yeah, we did it right away.
okay. So once that's approved, yeah, it will get approved. We haven't seen it yet, so we don't got it back, so I'm sure there's not a
Will
problem.
they let us know?
Oh, certainly.
We're hoping.
Okay. As soon as we find out, you'll know.
Okay.
Okay? We'll keep our eye out for it. And make them inform them. Okay? I don't see any problem, so but you never know. Never know what John's been doing on his golf cart lately. But welcome. We're anxious to see you take over. So.
Would that be approved at the next meeting, or would it be...
It will be, it's an existing liquor license, so it's not like we're going to add a liquor license.
Okay.
So as long as all the background checks and everything come back, I don't see any problem with it. I'm sure that we would be approving it right away.
So we don't have to wait another month or anything to another meeting, because that puts us way back.
Because it's issued by the liquor commissioner rather than the village board.
Okay.
All, yeah. I won't go any farther. You guys are okay, I think.
Congratulations.
It's exciting.
Okay. Move to approve TIF term sheet related to the proposed TIF associated with the Hidden Harbor development. I suppose I should have a motion and then a second and go for discussion and then
Or if we want to hear from Mike. Mike usually has a presentation, some thoughts on this. Do you want to proceed?
Well, I learned something new. I didn't know Ed was also the liquor commissioner.
Many hats.
wait till you try to get a license.
Yeah. So, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I figured I could just do a brief, very brief overview on just status update on where we are with things since we're all here. So, capital raising, we've continued that since the last meeting and still doing really good with that. We're like 65 to 70% capital that we need, our goal to raise. We're at 65 to 70% there. Army Corps of Engineers approval, I think we're a couple weeks away from that. I'm hoping by the end of the month. MCDOT, I was actually going to have Tim give an update because he's been in almost every meeting, but my best guess with MCDOT is we're about halfway. We kind of solidified things from Salem Avenue to the bridge. We actually canceled the meeting last week because MCDOT took the current geometrics and kind of circulated it through everyone at their office, so waiting to hear back on that. But we continue to work with them weekly, weekly meetings minus last week. IDNR, we have our third submittal in with them, and we're continuing to review areas outside of the seawall violation. We actually, I mentioned in the last meeting that we were looking at discovering potential backup plans with this seawall violation, and we actually uncovered some very intriguing new information during that process. So we're kind of circling back with them and requesting a meeting as soon as possible to review what we found with them. IEPAs, it should be all good minus the SWIP plan that comes with final engineering. Historic protection agencies, that's all done, checked off. And then Village of Johnsburg, we've done our high-level review of engineering and whatnot, but we still have final engineering and more details to come there. We did submit our preliminary plat survey prior to the last meeting to the village, along with rules, regulations, bylaws, owners association, just a whole slew of legal documents. So I don't know that we have to review them yet, but they're all in the portal that I share stuff with the village. So, once that time comes, this stuff's ready to go. So as far as the TIF, I wanted to basically just briefly go through some of the history of what we've done to date with the TIF. I know we've got some newly elected board members, and I just figured it was worth highlighting a few key milestones that we've done thus far. So we initially made contact with SB Freeman just over a year ago. It was on August 2nd of 2024. They gave us some proposals on August 26th. We signed the proposal in November. SB Freeman did their feasibility study in January, and we actually had a meeting with the Village of Johnsburg and SB Freeman on January 15th, and the findings there were that the total increment that Hidden Harbor was projected from SB Freeman was $25.2 million. We then actually went out and found, everybody was kind of concerned that that was a little bit gracious or generous for the increment that was being produced. So we actually went and got a second opinion. That is when we actually found Matt, who is not here tonight, kind of going solo tonight, so go easy on me. I have Brad, but fifth attorney's out of town. So yeah, we had SB Freeman at 25.2. We wanted another number, so we found Matt, who you guys met at the last meeting and the meeting before. We had a fifth meeting with Matt and the Village of Johnsburg on 4/3. And that's when we requested the gap analysis that I think everybody has seen since the last meeting. that total projection was 21.4. So about $3.8 million more conservative on the projection versus the Esprit Friedman version. Okay. So we then had a gap review meeting where we discussed our findings of the 21.4, and we also agreed in that meeting to take $5 million right off the top of the 21.4 and call it 16.4 to accommodate Salem Avenue. 16.4 is the number that the feasibility study, the gap analysis, and all of our financials is what the project requires, right? So we then did the trustee first read on 7/15, leaving essentially from the 16.4 to the S.P. Friedman 25.2 is 8.8 million basically left on the table for the little sliver, 10% sliver land required for Salem Avenue if needed. So tonight's meeting is to approve to just move to the next step in this lengthy process. We've been at it for over a year. I did want to clarify a couple things. I was out of town last week, so I wasn't on top of stuff like I normally am. But I did. Did everybody see Michael's letter from August 1st? Was that distributed to everybody, or Michael, village attorney?
Oftentimes they don't read what I send them.
So I did bring a copy in case you guys need it. Does anybody need one or no?
It was circulated.
Yeah, it was in our board.
Okay. So the key things I just wanted to point out in here is in the first paragraph, we talked about the S.P. Friedman projections of the available increment were $22 million. That I would like to get on the record that S.P. Friedman was 25.2. So S.P. Friedman's was the more generous version. And then we ended up going to Matt and his more conservative projection of 21.4. So the other thing I wanted to point out is in the second paragraph of that letter, it basically states that the village would have priority to choose when Salem was done and have priority to the TIF funds. That is new to me. We did take the $5 million I mentioned off the top from the 21.4 to the 16.4. That was right off the bat. So the biggest issue that I see with this statement in there was just that it's the priority of payment, right? So the project needs the increment that we've proposed to everybody, and we needed the priority for it. So I just want to be crystal clear on that in that regard. So those are just a few of the things I wanted to point out. The other thing I brought with was there was a few different versions of the term sheet that were distributed. The latest one that I found when I got back in town was from 8/1/2025 at 9:55 in the morning. Is that the latest one that the trustees all have a version of? So,
Say August 1st.
I'll hand it out just to make sure it's all the same. Again, I apologize. Went to Door County on vacation with the family. It's first vacation I took since Christmas.
It looks like it's like that.
Yeah, it's slightly different. So.
Okay.
Look at that. Counted right.
I think this is the one we had, Mike.
Yeah, this is the one.
That's what we had, that's July 2025, right? That's where
No, it's not. It is not the most recent version. It's not the version that was provided to you in the board updates.
Oh, it's different?
And it's not the version that was sent to Mr. Walsh. Michael, I believe there was a lot more markups on that document.
Yeah, there was a lot more than that.
So there were a ton, and I was getting confused because we ran out of colors in the rainbow. And the latest email that Matt sent me, that was sent to Michael, had a clean copy, and it had basically
The one that was
started
sent
with
to
just red
is the
again.
most recent one. This
That's
is,
not the most recent.
no, the one that was in our board packet is the most recent version.
Correct.
Could I see that?
Oh, here, I,
Oh, sure. Wait, what's that? A good example might be this right away in number 5 of the project.
make sure that should
So the first light blue underline verse that you handed out. I
be.
don't
We should have a bunch of markup edits in there.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong.
This one up there, I told.
Do we know what is supposed to be the most up-to-date color?
So from my understanding, there was a ton of colors that went around, and what I just distributed was what I identified as the latest and greatest. It was basically eliminating all the different colors and getting back to a clean copy that basically, yeah, I think this is outdated. So the one that Matt sent on 8/1 at 9:55 is the one that I just handed out.
But that is, there was one after that went back to Matt.
I don't think it was this one.
Yes, it was.
It was?
So I think to answer Mike's question, I believe that the most recent color is light blue, and I'll tell you what I'm looking at is, for example, with respect to number 11, eligible redevelopment project costs, there's language that follows number 1, paragraph 1, including but not limited to a splash pad available for use by the public but maintained and owned by the developer at its expense. And then 2, Matt's attorney articulated that the development team would like additional time for the demolition of the Jogger Dune facility in number 9. And I think that the village originally suggested 2 months, and I think that Mike's counsel came back with a request for 6 months. And so we made that change.
So 6 months was the reasonable time that we talked about, right? If you're saying so too.
Correct.
Okay.
2 months wouldn't give them adequate time to get permitting and stuff. That was too tight.
Without looking at it in detail, it looks like Mike's version that he just handed out includes all of these changes, just not highlighted.
Yeah, so I think
makes a difference.
what I saw was
Hard to tell.
all these colors, and basically anything that was accepted, I thought Matt, my TIF attorney, took and just blacked everything out, and there was just the red changes in addition to this. Do we know when this was sent, the time and date this was sent?
Friday afternoon. I think the difference is, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, the language that they struck out regarding Salem Avenue was put back in.
That's what I'm
In that
seeing.
last version. Because it's been determined it has to be in there in order for the TIF funds to be used.
Yeah, so I think that language was introduced about the village having priority. So, Mike, do you want to further elaborate on your concern? Does everyone understand what Mike's concern is with respect to the TIF increment and Salem Avenue?
I could understand it better.
Yes. So we're saying that we need priority of payment initially, right? And that is basically the main concern that we're trying to solidify and make sure it's crystal clear to everybody. There's 21.4 million available over the life of the TIF, we took 5 million of that right off the bat and said, there's not 21.4, there's 16.4. So that is where the gap analysis and all that gets to the 16.4. Because one of the things that we struck in here was just, let me find my other notes here. So basically with Salem, if Salem is not a requirement of the Hidden Harbor project, we are willing to leave the $5 million that I mentioned on the table, but maintain the 100% priority for the first 18 3/4 years. Does that make sense to everybody? Our project does not require Salem Avenue. We would maintain the priority for our TIF, for our project, or the increment, I should say.
So Mike, are you saying that on the gap analysis report, if anybody else has that, but, because I'm trying to come up where we're coming up with the differences, the 21 million to 16 million. So that is, do you have the report?
I don't have it with me.
So you're saying then on this report that lists out the pay schedule, that the village of Johnsburg will then will get reimbursed with these last, whatever, 6 years worth of
Correct.
TIF increment payments.
Correct.
So when you say you're leaving 5 million, you're still asking for $21 million. Because we're still trying to, I mean, again, I'm not sure what the answer to this is, but who is going to be responsible for Salem under this latest provision?
So if,
Page 14.
So what we're basically saying is that Salem Avenue is required by my project, we're going to come back and ask for all 21.4. Our TIF term sheet is stating we don't anticipate that we are going to be responsible for Salem Avenue, and who knows when new development comes. So we're basically taking, instead of asking for 21.4, we're asking for 16.5 over, does that make sense?
Okay. And you're saying responsible for none of Salem Avenue?
So if I'm not responsible for any of Salem Avenue, if Hidden Harbor is not responsible for any part of it, and it's not required by MCDOT or anybody, then I'm basically leaving $5 million of TIF increment on the table. Granted, it's later in the pay schedule, but at the same token, it's a large sum of money.
Again, so you're saying you're not intending to make any changes to Salem Avenue in any way, regardless of what MCDOT comes back with, whether it's realigning or whether it's just updating what's there. So you're still not intending to make any changes to Salem Avenue?
So as far as the access with MCDOT, like full access, no. The TIF term sheet explicitly calls out that if there's any change in the access, full access that it currently has, for example, if it goes right in, right out, or 3/4 access, we would have to come back to this step and renegotiate the TIF.
But you still plan on making it to, like, grading it?
Correct.
And all that, like, so if they approve, or if they didn't have right in, right out as full access, you would still be doing things to resurfacing.
I think everybody agrees that's a big problem, right? That no way if there's not full access on Salem, it would have to be relocated. We're not going to tell those people in that subdivision that have been there all these years that they can go only right in, right out. I mean, I don't want to beat around the bush. I just want to say, yeah, that's the way it is. So, if that's the case, then there's going to have to be a relocation to Salem Avenue.
And then that's an event where you're responsible for it then, right? And then it falls in.
Right, and then I would come back and renegotiate for 100% of the TIF, because we're trying to figure out how to absorb
Then
the
you relocate.
realignment. But we are still very much operating under the pretense that Salem Avenue is not, we're following the data from our traffic study and our engineers and all of that stuff. So our data, for example, from the traffic study showed that we needed to massively widen Chapel Hill Road at our main entrance and add turn lanes and tapers and curbs and gutters and all of those things, right? And we followed the data, and that's what we basically just finished with McDOT, or are getting closer to finishing after 8 or 9 weeks of them meeting with us and combing through all those details. So I'd like to draw everyone's attention to page 3 of the term sheet, section 7, number 2. It says, the developer shall diligently pursue approval of the project by all applicable government authorities, like that, prior to the execution of the redevelopment agreement. This is not the redevelopment agreement. This is allowing us to start the redevelopment agreement. Okay? It goes on to say further about midway through, any changes to the existing full access to Salem Avenue, e.g. limited to right-in, right-out access, or the village-approved site plan for the project, developer shall resubmit to the village planning and zoning process. And it later says at the very end that either party shall have the right but not the obligation to terminate the RDA. Again, this is not the RDA. We have months of RDA discussions ahead of us, but we're just trying to start the process. In my mind, this gives another level of comfort to the board to say we are specifically calling out Salem Avenue, and if anything changes with the full access at Salem Avenue, we have to renegotiate to start from this stage. Does that make sense?
And at this point, you have not had any conversation with the school district?
No.
Why?
So I'm learning as I go through this process, Josh. I've never gone through it before. So what I advise my TIF attorney, Matt Welch, to do is just advise me and us to standard procedure. So what he has told me is what happens 99% of the time is it is a joint effort between the village and the developer to have a joint review board meeting, and basically that's where it kind of gets approved by not just the school, but all the taxing bodies. So Matt said it would be very abnormal for me to personally, it's one thing for me to reach out to them. I think it's another if we have the village and everyone here tonight speaking to the project and how it's a valuable asset to our community and we like it and all that stuff. It means a lot more coming from both of us opposed to just me. So the other thought with that is that we don't want to start talking with them until we have a basis of what the deal is, which is the term sheet. If we go to them and say, hey, it's X, Y, Z, and then we go back to them in a month and say, oh, we got a little bit further and now it's changed. Everybody hates change, right? So that's why the term sheet kind of kicks off all of that, but my hope is that I'm not solely responsible for that. I think that is hopefully a shared partnership with the village that's supporting the project and whatnot.
But at the same time, you're asking us to make a decision on this when it's the same situation, that there are so many unanswered questions out there.
I'm all ears if we have another option to continue the year-long process that we've been in to get here, but this is where I'm at, and my way of giving the board another level of comfort or cementing the comfort level is the control with the TIF term sheet to say if Salem Avenue changes, the whole thing has to start at this stage again.
I mean, but Salem Avenue is just one facet of it too. Michael,
Talking
if we were,
Michael?
what's it?
You're talking our
Michael, yes. That's Michael S. Is there any way that if we were to vote yes on this, that anything in there could be binding?
No. In light of the language that I put in at the end, the disappointment may come in and angst if, like for tonight, there's a question about the priority of funds. And so I think part of the idea of the term sheet is to try to sketch out those parameters. And I think one of the big parameters here is, what would you, Claudette, it may be unfair to put you on the spot. What do you think a reasonable ballpark would be for Salem Avenue? 4 to 6 million? Am I just millions?
You should have 10 there.
Well, and I've asked him if he could get us some numbers that we could review, so we're not just talking about hypothetical numbers, or that we really have an idea of what we're dealing with. Plus, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there is a meeting with the county specific to Salem Avenue next week. And I think coming out of that meeting, we can have more information about what the expectations are, because it's my understanding they've already pretty much identified options, and it's a matter of following through those.
So to answer your question, Trustee Hagan, let's just say millions. It's a material amount to us. And so I think one of the goals of this term sheet is to articulate what those parameters are and to try to flesh them out in terms of expectations, especially when there's this major amount. So the question would be, I think that's before the board tonight, among other things, is would the board feel comfortable waiting until $16 million of an increment is given to the developer, which may be 15 years, 18 years, it may not be any year. It may not come forward. That $5 million may not come into our pockets. There may not be that increment because we have projections. And so I think what my hope was in this term sheet, what I wanted to put this development team on notice was, listen, if the village is going to be responsible for relocating Salem Avenue, that we talk about that be part of this arrangement up front. So there's no surprises later on as we go through this process.
So then we're asking then the residents to finance this project, part of this project, for 20 years, almost.
Residents in the affected taxing districts. More directly.
And there is negotiation to happen. It doesn't have to be that the village, it can be based on a percentage, right? It doesn't have to be that one or the other party gets all of the money first before the other one sees anything.
One alternative may be a split, beginning with year one.
I'd like to interject a few things. So as far as an estimate for the realignment, my GC, I did have him price it as an ad alternate, and he priced it at $2.5 million. I think he was a little light with the traffic signal cost, but that is why when we had the meeting a few months ago, we said, rather than get in the weeds with any of that, let's double it and call it $5 million so that everybody feels comfortable and we can continue talking about Hidden Harbor opposed to future realignment at a future date. So the other things I'd like to point out is on the screen right here, the property boundary for Hidden Harbor is in the center line of the existing Bay Road, and it goes straight through here. So this brown line continues through here. So of the future realignment of Salem Avenue, what portion of the future realignment actually touches the Hidden Harbor property? It's this little sliver. This little sliver is what we're talking about. And basically, we think it's a very fair offer to say, the increment that Hidden Harbor is going to produce, if we use the SB Friedman estimate, it would be $8.8 million that we're leaving on the table to not have to deal with that little sliver. So I think that's a very fair ask. I think I get that we're talking about big numbers, and I get that we're talking about priority of payment and whatnot, but that is a very small sliver. I would say that that's 10% or less of the land that's required for the future realignment. And again, we are asking for this if MCDOT says our project does not require that existing infrastructure can handle our development. If they say that, I think this is more than fair. We still would provide all the easements. We've been working through the easement lines and right-of-ways and stuff. We would still provide all the easements now for that to happen in a future date. But if Hidden Harbor does not require it, why are we adding complexity to this already very complex piece of property? The other thing I would say is it's kind of future Salem, in my mind, is a road to nowhere. I don't know that the village has had a ton of complaints on existing Salem and their access, and I've lived here my entire life. I never knew that that was even a plan. No one's ever told me anything about wanting that in the middle of a cornfield. So the value of it, even once it is built, I think the true value of it is serving just south of future Salem, is where there's future plans. If you look at the future plans of Johnsburg and development, they want high-density residential. Well, that would drive the need for the realignment, the traffic counts, the number of people. If our development does not, that's where
I think I get stuck on Salem Avenue, and I apologize for that. I think everybody's stuck on Salem Avenue, and I am too, because if we don't have the full access, we got to do Salem Avenue.
True. If the full access changes at Salem Avenue, I have to come back here. And that is very, Michael, are you okay with how it's worded in there that way? Like that's, I think it's very clear that if this access changes at Salem, we would have to renegotiate the TIF. I'd have to go back to planning and zoning, and I don't think there's any risk for the village there, but you tell me, Michael.
The language does say that you have to go back to planning and zoning with the new plan.
I did it, you guys. I also wish and thought that we would have all of this done by now, and I think we're getting close. I think we're getting very close. But this TIF is the critical path of when all this happens. I anticipated that we would be demoing the Jugger Dunes in a few months from now. I think everybody's looking forward to that. But to keep the ball moving and things running parallel, opposed to finish to start relationships from a scheduling perspective. The other thing with this TIF term sheet is, as Michael said, it's not binding. So we're very simply asking to start the RDA process to allow everyone to voice their comments, concerns, issues, whatnot, and vet through them over. I mean, the RDA is 50 plus pages. This term sheet is 4 or 5, and we've been talking about the TIF term sheet for a month and a half. So I anticipate that the RDA is going to be a lengthy process. And like I said, we're learning as we go through this, right?
So, Michael, you said it's not binding, right?
Correct.
There's nothing there that binds us to anything?
Correct.
There's no financial obligations on the part of the village?
Correct.
And if Salem Avenue has to be relocated, he's got to go back and, do it, right? That's what he's telling us.
No.
No.
He's going to go back to planning and zoning.
Correct.
That's it.
Okay.
That's his obligation. So,
I just want to know it's not our obligation to do that if we had to relocate it themselves.
Okay, follow this through. A scenario in which the county says, we're going to put a right-in, right-out restriction on Salem Avenue. He says, okay, I'll take this back to planning and zoning. That step, going back to the recommended body, doesn't obligate Mike, his team, to pay whatever the amount is for the relocation of Salem. It just doesn't. Right?
Okay.
It's his own, what he's going to go back for is the site plan has changed, perhaps, but there's certainly no obligation for him to relocate Salem Avenue, of course.
But if he doesn't relocate it, the project's dead, right?
Perhaps.
The project would be dead. I mean, he's going to have to relocate it if there's no full access at the existing Salem, and he has agreed to redo the existing Salem if he has full access. If he doesn't have full access, he's got to agree to relocate Salem Avenue, which, from my understanding, is another problem, right? That we have to have an agreement with Shabillos because we can't put a road on property that's not ours.
Correct. We need to acquire the right of way.
We need to acquire that right of way. So, we've had discussions with Shabillos. It seems like they were sort of favorable, right, Claudette, when we talked to them? And it's a big benefit for them to do it, so I think they'd be favorable, okay? But that's another hurdle here that would have to be addressed. If they say relocate Salem Avenue, we might as well be working on that too, because it's something that we'd like to see in the future. But it's still a hurdle. It has to happen.
The one thing I'd like to add is just that the TIF term sheet, again, that exact same, page 3, section 7, number 2. Prior to we need MCDOT to approve existing Salem to remain as is prior to the execution of the RDA. So my hope would be that we start the RDA. We spend the next month or two going through all the nuances of the TIF, getting everyone's concerns, comments, issues all vetted out. And we have a decision from MCDOT. If they say you must relocate Salem Avenue, the village would have the right to say we're not going to execute the RDA. Right? So that is, I think, important to point out that it's in there.
We have that option regardless of, I'm not saying that we would, but just this versus the RDA, we have the option to not approve the RDA as is, even if there was nothing in there about it. If nothing changed with Salem Avenue, move forward as is, right? Like Michael said, this is not a legally binding document. The RDA would be, right? So that's the difference between the two. But it would be if we made changes from this to the RDA, which we have the power to do, it would be seen as maybe more, maybe a bad taste in it. It's kind of what you're saying, right, Michael? It's like the idea when we approve this is that with Salem Avenue removed from all of this, is that when it comes to the RDA, we're not making tons of changes to this.
Yeah, I think that's the expectation.
Right, okay. So we still have the RDA. We still have the RDA that Salem Avenue removed. We still have to, the RDA is the final document that we have to approve and move forward with to approve the TIF.
And to Josh's point that there's more than just Salem, it says all applicable governmental authorities, all of them. So the RDA, the TIF, none of it is actually executed until everybody has concrete answers on where those agencies stand.
Well, and I think you'd understand too when we talk about the things like the splash pad and flood zones and all that. obviously that falls under that approval of other governing bodies, right? Because if we can't put a splash pad in a flood zone, obviously we can't reimburse it with TIF dollars. So I think there's got to be that understanding too, that as far as, that couldn't be on the RDA if that wasn't approved.
I gotta ask, who slipped in the splash pad picture? Michael, was that you?
Yes.
I asked Matt when I was looking at it on my phone, I'm like, where did that picture come from? So just so everybody's aware, the splash pad that we have kind of in mind is very, very similar to the McHenry River Walk, where it's basically in the concrete. There's no obstructions that would stick out of the ground. It's basically everything is in the concrete and it shoots out from the concrete. If you've seen the one at McHenry River Walk, it's pretty much exactly like that. They do have little white globes that they can go screw in the wintertime. So maybe it's something like that that's removable that they would allow, but we have not gotten to splash pad with the DNR. We're still working through.
Because a lot of this is still pending. This is the last time I'm going to interrupt.
No, that's
Because a lot of this is still pending. It goes back to 7-2, right? A lot of this is still pending governing body approval.
Right.
Maybe not a lot, that's maybe exaggeration. Certainly.
That's what I was going to say too. I think I have 3 issues with approving this. That's one of them, right? Again, all the outstanding questions. We don't know if there's actually going to be a public benefit because we don't know what these other governing bodies are going to allow or not allow, and that really hinges on what's going to be proven as a public benefit based on this document. So that's the first one. The second one is.
I have a follow-up to that. Who are the taxing bodies that'll be impacted? So if we approve
That was
it-
my second one.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you made me think that it was part of number 1.
No, I'm talking about IDNR, I'm talking about MCDOT, I'm talking about the ones that we're still waiting for
The regulatory
clarity,
bodies.
yes, to know what this development is actually going to look like. We're guessing, right? We're guessing with Salem.
I don't think we are. I think we're showing you exactly the site plan.
I mean, I think we've honed it in, but we're still guessing. We don't know what they're going to require out of this particular piece. We don't know what IDNR is going to say about your pier.
So
We
I
don't know
disagree.
what. Okay.
I disagree, and the reason I disagree is I am showing you the plan that we are approving, and I'm saying if that changes, we have to come back and talk.
But then you're asking us to approve something ahead of that, and it just seems backwards. So the other thing, that was my first issue. The second one is the other governing tax bodies that are going to be affected by this, but obviously the school is the biggest one. If we are to go through and say, yeah, we approve this, without any input from the school, and then they look at it and they say, we absolutely are not interested in this, then we're fighting with the school district about this?
No, because we didn't approve it.
We didn't approve it.
But we're giving.
Let Michael answer that question, I think. Michael?
Well, first, Trustee Hagan, finish your thought.
I'm saying if we say yes to this, we are giving the nod, even though it's not binding. We are still saying, yes, we, Village of Johnsburg, are interested in this without any discussion from these other tax bodies that are going to be affected.
Yes.
We're making decisions on their behalf.
So one of the questions I think you put forward is, while the biggest impact is the taxing district, well, in terms of taxing districts, it would be the school district, which I would guess is what, 80% of the bill?
Yeah.
74.
Okay,
I think so.
approximately. The others are the township,
JD's salary.
the township, the county,
College.
All of them, college district.
Fire department.
Fire district, library district.
Everybody on the tax.
library district.
Everybody under tax.
Yes.
Fire district.
So
With
when we
the,
get to the
And a
RDA,
small degree.
and if we were to sign it, then we're taking all of those taxing bodies and
Yep.
we're redirecting those
Those
funds.
funds, correct.
so I think the only body that wouldn't be on the joint review board would be if there's perhaps a cemetery district, something of that
We don't
nature.
have those. No.
So, again, I've never done one of these before, so I'm learning. But from what Matt has advised me is that the typical procedure is to get the non-binding term sheet from you all approved, And then you start talking with the taxing bodies and ultimately get their approval. I don't know if it was in this board meeting or previous ones, but just to mention it, again, from a legal standpoint, the school, we have no additional load that we're putting on the school district because we have no students that we're adding to the system. So from a legal standpoint, they could vote no, and it could still go through. I'm not saying that's what anybody wants to do. I get maintaining a good working relationship, and I'm willing to go make presentations of our awesome project to the school board and do what I did for the first read for this meeting, or this board.
Mike, but isn't this a major concern of yours? I'm just thinking, if I was in your position, that you're trying to sell us on something, you don't have MCDOT, you don't have Army Corps, you don't have other agencies agreeing upon this, and if something would change, you'd have to go right back to P&Z. It just seems like you could do all this, and you're going one step forward and four back.
He's going to have to go to P&Z anyways, I think. Right, Michael? I mean, no matter what, we're changing things around here, he's going to have to go back to P&Z.
I mean, that's what I understood, yeah.
Yes.
So,
If they change.
But they approved the plan as they
To me,
saw
I
it.
just think
They said zero,
I've
it said
done all
zero
this, and now I
changes
got to
from
go.
what you're being presented.
You're exactly
So,
right. So
yeah.
he's going to have to, if there's any changes like this, it's going to have to go back to P&Z. Correct. And Michael knows that, right? I want to be plain English.
All right, just,
And I hear you, and yes, we're taking on additional risk by proceeding at the rate that we're proceeding. At the same time, there are a very complex project. If we have to make one single change and go back, and it's already went through planning and zoning once, we have to come back and say, hey, we got our answer, this is our new plan, this is what we're looking at. They've already looked at the other $30 million worth of work. They're looking at the $5 million that's new, and it's a much faster process. But we've been at this now for a year and a half. Like, we have to keep moving. It can't just continue to stall and stall. Does that make sense?
no,
I did wait. Well, all last summer, we waited and thought, oh, we'll talk with MCDOT and do all this stuff, and it wasn't getting it done. So
I mean, there's been no answers to the HR Green study either, under my understanding, correct?
Their comments?
Yes.
I think all of those will be picked up during our final engineering, which basically is done post-entitlement. So,
I don't think that was Tim's, at least that's not the impression that I got from Tim, was that it was going to wait that long. Maybe, again, I don't know, but that's...
On my end, to answer those level of questions, I need to hire a civil engineer for hundreds of thousands of dollars to do final engineering. So that's why we're trying to take these little baby steps every meeting. We got the use type last time. This time we're trying to get confidence that there's a deal waiting for us at the end of the road, and we can start the process to figure out what this deal looks like, right? So we're taking all these little baby steps to inch closer and closer to actually doing something with it.
So who's your third?
Yeah, let me get my third, just so we, again, I get them all on the table and I don't forget, because that's what I'm going to do. The payment plan, right? The way that the increments are paid out, how the village is paid last. That's my third issue. I wouldn't want to tell anybody, any other residents about that. So I don't think that that's a fair deal for the village. I think that some compromise could possibly be reached, but again, if that's what's in this agreement, if that's what you're requiring in order for your project to be viable, I mean, that's a problem for me.
So yes, the numbers that we put forth in the gap analysis are with those assumptions. And to me, if Salem Avenue is not required by our project, why would we need to prioritize Salem Avenue over Hidden Harbor? I think the community needs the entire development of Hidden Harbor and fixing the jugger dunes and fixing the 30-year eyesore, and that should be the priority opposed to a road in the middle of the cornfield.
But it would cost the village of Johnsburg a lot less than $6 million to fix Jugger Dune.
Well, you could demo Jugger Dunes, but not get a $35 million.
I agree,
project.
but again, that's one relatively small facet of this, right? Again, I'm looking at this as being, as I've said before, the most important property in this entire village from a commercial standpoint, right?
I agree.
So I want you to be successful, Mike, but I want to make sure that, again, we can go back to our residents and say, yeah, this is, we're making sure we're getting everybody a good deal that's going to be on the hook for paying for this part.
I would ask the question, Josh, what is the risk in not allowing us to proceed?
What is the risk in not allowing you to proceed?
We continue to look at Jugger Dunes. It continues to stay in this current situation over there. Like, I get it. I get that it's complicated. I get that it's outside the norm. There's nothing about this property that is normal. I've done hundreds of construction projects. This one is very unique and very challenging.
So, Josh, are you done? I don't know.
For now.
Okay. So, if, Michael, everything in here, that all these amenities that Mike has proposed has to be included. There's no variant. I mean, I'm trying to figure out what our risk is with approving this, okay? There's no financial risk on the part of the village. There's no risk as far as we can change everything on it, right? That's what that paragraph that you put on there, we don't have to accept it. I'm just trying to figure out, and I understand Josh's concern, but I'm trying to figure out what is the risk by approving it, other if there's no legal obligation for him to move forward. I mean, you know, and if all the amenities are part of this agreement, that they have to be done, and Salem has to be done if it doesn't have full access and all the right-of-ways, I'm trying to figure out what risk we have by not letting him go forward with the TIF.
Only simply what's being voiced here tonight, and that is a unique situation in which we don't know what's going to happen with this plan. That's it. And normally, the developer comes to the municipality, here's what I need to do. Here's the plan. That's just been my experience in Mundelein, Marengo.
So the process isn't normal like we're doing.
Yeah, this is a unique situation. At least given my limited experience of 8, 9 TIF districts that I've worked on, this is unique in terms of the handicap of not knowing what needs to be done here. That's unusual. It's unusual that you have a site plan that hasn't received the approval of any other third party. That makes it difficult. And so normally, you know, the RDA is a memorialization of what that bargain is. Someone is usually able to go to a municipality and say, I want to put up a strip mall. Here's the blighted area. Here's my cost. Here's the picture of what it's going to look like. Plan unit development. That isn't present here. This is a moving target with respect to Army Corps, IDNR, McCog. McDowell. What did I say? McCog's all for it, I suspect.
Well, don't you think the dinner there, that's all.
So that's unusual. And so the difficulty is we're always trying to, I think the concern is we're going ahead with this TIF term sheet, we're going to start negotiating the RDA, 50 pages, yada, 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 and we don't know what to address because we don't know what the site plan is going to look like. 2, again, with the number of TIFs I've been involved in, less than 10, not nearly the number that Matt Welch has been involved in, I suspect. In each instance, in this area, the municipality has reached out to the school district. They're the ones who are in the position of raising a political storm if they don't agree with it. And 2, in at least one instance, considering suit against the village to the point where I've seen a draft complaint saying we don't like it, we don't agree, and in that case, the school district is arguing, we don't believe it's blighted, so we're going to sue you to overturn it, and you can imagine that school district had a lot of financial incentives to do so. So those are the challenges, you know, and with respect to the TIFs that I've worked on, in Kennewick County, Lake County, it's not a legal thing that you must approach the school district. It's just buying onto their political support. It's a policy thing. It's not a legal thing. Mike is absolutely correct that it's possible the school may not be able to veto this. So if we don't get a recommendation from the Joint Review Board, I believe that requires an extra vote, a slight supermajority vote, in order to establish the TIF. But the village is going to be asked to, and pressed, I imagine, because of the time constraints here, it's my sense, is get this RDA done, and I don't even know if we're going to have a final site plan. So this RDA, as Mike describes it, is going to be 50 pages, presumably with a lot of detail, because we want to see, here's the improvements we want to see, to some degree public benefit, and we don't have a final site plan. This is the first time that I've seen that. It's difficult in terms of apprehension.
My argument to that would be, we have the site plan that was produced or approved by a plan, or recommended to your board as the site plan. That is the site plan. We keep saying that we don't have a site plan. We absolutely do. I can throw it on the screen. That is what we're building all of this around. So if that site plan changes, sucks for me, I have to go back. But am I doing this because I'm super rushed for time? No, I am confident in all the issues that we are going through with Salem and DNR and that. We are getting closer and closer daily. I've been talking about the same 3 issues, you guys, for over 2.5 years now at this point. I can tell you that I feel that we're getting really, really close. But we're not right there yet. So,
But if you're not rushed for time, like, why are we doing this now?
There is a time constraint, but it's not. There is a time constraint.
Michael, did you say that? I'm facing that way. I might have misheard the part that I wanted to hear. So, did you say that normally the municipality reaches out to the school and has almost like a courtesy meeting or so? Because that would be my biggest one. I did not know you haven't talked to them at all. I love a lot of the language that you added. I think you guys did a great job looking out for our behalf.
Yeah, with the staff.
But that is one. I mean, Josh brought up a good point about the payment plan. But the taxing body with the school, not even, I've never even talked to some of those people that I know on the side about this. I do have, I mean, is there a chance that we do that with the school board and then vote on this at the next meeting or something? Is that an option to try and keep that, our group and theirs happy?
One option is this, and that is, the only reason the board may want to consider it is, for the same reasons that Mike talked about, is, I think, I'm speculating, the school district may be very enthused about this, for the same reasons we are, and then 2, it's not putting kids into the school district. That's usually a sore point, you know. The TIF that we're working on in Carpentersville right now is apartments or a strip mall. The school district has concerns, understandably. So I think that what I've seen is that there's communications with the school district. It doesn't have to be a full complement of professionals, an entourage going there, but to say, here's the key points, here's the terms. And, you know, the school district may come back and say, could we limit the term of the TIF? In Algonquin, for the Compass Point development to the north of the village, an arrangement was made by and among the developer, the school district, and the village to limit the TIF to 17 years. I thought that was more reasonable than 23, especially where municipalities have the right to request legislation from the legislature to extend the TIF another 12 years' time. So you can imagine where the school district says, I think they came to the conclusion, if I could speculate, that the development wouldn't occur in that area, it was subject to flooding. It's not putting kids into the school district, and it's for 17 years. It's not for the usual 23. It's certainly not for the 35 that could be requested, as I think that the city of Woodstock did, that we secured a couple of years ago. So it's that give and take where, and like I said, I have no reason to think the school district would not be enthusiastic about this. I have no reason to believe that.
I think I'd have, just to dwell on it a little bit, and JB, maybe you can answer this better with your involvement with the school district, okay? But I would think that, and maybe I'm naive and don't understand it, but I would think that most of the people in town and the school district knows about this project.
I believe that.
That there's not a question there that...
It's a fair statement.
You know, I mean, if they were concerned, I think we would hear rumblings out there that, hey, there's concerns about it.
From the school board?
From the school board.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay, but, I mean, I think the biggest concern there is that, okay, you know, are we approving something that affects them without them knowing it? And does that create a problem? That's all you're talking about.
Yes.
I really think everybody knows about it for the most part, but, and I would think that we would have heard about it by now. But,
I would agree. I think there's overwhelming support in Johnsburg for this project, but now we're talking about a TIF, right? And so you have these taxing bodies who are going to read about this in the newspaper, let's say, that we have approved this non-binding term sheet with these regional benefits that only benefit us. That's how they're going to read it, because nobody's had a conversation even with them yet. And I'm not saying that if Mike Oliver talks with the school district and the fire district and talks about these regional benefits to them, right? Or someone has a conversation with them, then they're not just reading about it in the paper, because they're going to have no idea what we approved. And I feel like that's going to cause a bit of a storm, right? And I think it would hurt our relationships with those other taxing bodies for future, because we're ignoring them. Is I think how they're going to interpret it.
Okay. So I think when Michael was talking, you mentioned a comment that stuck out to me. The school's going to ask, what are the key terms? I think until we establish the baseline that's non-binding of the term sheet, we're going to say, I don't know. So you're not approving the TIF, you're not approving anything without them. My hope is that the trustees and the board and everybody is just as excited for this project, and they're going to the school board officials and saying, hey, we have this great opportunity to fix the jugger dunes and this 30-year-old problem. It's going to take a little work with this TIF stuff, but we kind of got the ball rolling, and we're in the middle of negotiating what that agreement looks like. Do you have any input that you'd like to put in? And that gives them that opportunity during the creation of the RDA.
And listen, I don't even know that they're going to say, well, I want this, that, or the other thing. Right? I think that there's traffic safety issues that are going to be addressed through this, right? By the widening and turn lanes, and Salem Avenue is going to be approved, you know, or Salem improved, right? And you're going to bring it up to the current standards, whatever those standards are, and I don't know that I completely agree, you know, with your payment term sheet, right? But I'm not saying I completely disagree, because again, widening of a roadway and improving stormwater, I think there are some benefits there that you're going to be paying for, obviously, up front, and receive those monies, and the monies that Johnsburg would receive obviously would be years down the road. But we did get some improvements, which are benefits to us. But again, going back to the other taxing bodies, I think that they deserve to at least have a conversation where those arguments can be made, like I just did. Like Jugger Dunes will be gone, right? The building will be gone. That's an improvement for our community. And there is no, or probably no impact to the school district, and they'll still receive the tax dollars that they were receiving in 2025, right? So that those numbers aren't going to be reduced. Those dollar amounts won't be reduced. But again, I think it's borderline insulting to approve the term sheet without at least talking to them, to tell them what these ideas, your ideas are, that have the regional benefit as you're proposing.
I've never done this before, Keith, but I just, in my humble opinion, I feel it's premature to engage with them until we are all in alignment with what we're okay with. And it's not that, if you were approving the TIF and we weren't entering this next round of redevelopment agreement negotiations, it's going to take months, and they didn't have they have every ability during that RDA to comment, question, concern. We can have it. That's when from my understanding, that's when these meetings and these engagement with all the taxing bodies outside of the school district and the school district, that is typically when it takes place. I don't know what's typical. Never done one.
But I think the stigma that's attached to a TIF is not usually positive without it being sold. And we're taking the first step towards that TIF tonight.
I would agree, but I think people in our area understand TIF a little bit more than most other communities because they see the value in the McHenry River Walk, and it was all done with the TIF. So it's a very easy sell, in my opinion, because of the current blighted condition of the property, because it's been 30 plus years that it's looked like that, and our neighboring town has utilized TIF to do the McHenry River Walk. So people hear that, say that. It's, from my experience, being a local in town, telling people about it, they're like, oh, that absolutely makes sense. Our neighboring town, I don't know if Fox Lake used the TIF for their splash pad and all that or not. The new splash pad by Cambridge.
I believe so.
And I agree with you. It probably would be an easy sell, right? But there's an act that I think that needs to occur, right? A physical act of the sale to at least explain to them what terms we're saying have the regional benefit. Because I think there are regional benefits in there as written.
So if we don't approve the term sheet, what are we going to present to them as the basic terms?
Well, I think we have basic terms. You're proposing basic terms.
Right. It's a dollar. We have a dollar.
So I think this document gives us those basic terms to start those conversations. And the simple conversation with the school board is nothing's approved. We're in the middle of negotiations. This is what we as the board think makes sense. What do you guys think? I don't think they'd be offended by that at all. Personal opinion.
Yeah. At that point, we will have voted on some things.
That's what my point was, because I like this. Okay. But I like what Keith, that was my point with my comment, is I don't want them to think we left them out. So it's almost like we take this, obviously it's not officially voted on, but we take this is what we all talked about. Have that conversation so they know, and then say, yes, you know what I mean? I know it's more time, I get that, but that's the part that I would feel better about, is not having them read it in the paper, not having them be like, well, we didn't get notified of it.
And the last comment that I'll have is, Friday we were provided with one term sheet, and then you give us a second term sheet, and I'm not even sure what we're voting on, which term sheet, right? And I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm comparing the two, right, to markups, because obviously there are markups in the one we were given Friday that appear in the one that you gave us tonight that are missing, right?
Yeah, I think it's worth making sure we're approving the correct one. I apologize for being out last week, but as best of my knowledge, that's the one we can circle back around to find the latest and greatest.
Michael, you've and Claudette have looked at it more than anybody, I think. Do you see a lot of differences, or are they the last one, what we all agreed on, or was sent that you and his attorney agreed on, or is there more changes?
No, I think
Because I
that...
think you put some changes in there. I just want to make sure that, I agreed with Keith on a lot of those issues, that you want to know what we're approving, and I'm a little bit confused too.
So the fundamental difference is this, you know what, I take that back. The critical distinction is what Mike articulated at the outset of his presentation, and that is that his development team's request is for the $16 million without interruption. First priority, we call it. The version that I prepared that I'd sent to Matt's attorney provided that we would have the right to step in and obtain the funding for the relocation of Salem Avenue, if we elect to do so, presumably because of Kenner DOT.
So then is that what you're agreeing to, Mike?
No, because first off, what I've been told...
We're trying to get...
I feel like, even between...
So, if all along I've been told the village has no control over Salem Avenue, it's a MCDOT decision. So, and how I read this when I got back was the village would have additional authority on top of MCDOT authority to say, hey, we want to incentivize someone to buy the Schmillo piece, so we're going to take the Hidden Harbor TIF for years 1 through 5, and we're going to go build the road in the middle of the cornfield. I would not agree to that. If my project does not require it, what we're proposing is what's in the term sheet. That we have priority of the TIF increment for the 18 3/4 years, because our project didn't require it. In my opinion, you're welcome, Johnsburg, because we just left $8.3 million on the table that can pay for it in the future when some developer comes and decides to put high-density residential south of future Salem. Maybe the future developer completely pays for future realignment of Salem. Maybe it's a negotiation of the 8 whatever million that's left at the end. But that all of our projections and the priorities, all of that is set and outlined in the gap analysis. And if that changes, we need to go back and reanalyze what the changes are, see if it's doable or not, or feasible. But that is why it is important to solidify the term sheet, to understand the basic terms before we start confusing the heck out of all the other taxing bodies.
This term sheet that we have in our possession since, I think this is the Friday. Yeah, August 1st. Does not state what Mike is asking right now.
Correct.
Oh, that's a change between the two.
So let me just read what I think is the...
So, sorry, just really quickly. So this would be the one that we would be approving, would be the one that Mike is disagreeing with. Am I right?
That's the board's choice.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think the critical language is, here's where the parties I think are apart, and that is on page 2, paragraph 6A, that 100% of the incremental ad valorem of taxes, property taxes, that are collected against the property following execution of a mutually acceptable RDA, and in the light blue that's underlined, less those incremental ad valorem taxes collected against the property which are utilized by the village to relocate Salem Avenue. That's the fundamental distinction. And so I think that's the major thing. I think there's other minor stuff that could be ironed out in the RDA. But, that's whether Mike's business plan can accommodate this or not.
So, Michael, I have a question to figure out if that comment that you just read, the important language that we just read, did you unstrike that ever from Matt? Like, did Matt strike it and then you put it back in a second time? Or no?
I think I've only put in one time.
So So that would then prove that mine is the current one, because mine is that exact phrase that you just read, but yet struck.
That could be.
Then 7.1,
No, Michael,
It's
I
also
disagree. No, it went back to him later in the day with your letter to him explaining what was incorporated into that.
I'll be honest with you, on Friday afternoon, I wasn't keeping track of
And I-
which timestamp was.
I think the reason the concern is that if Salem Avenue were to ever be relocated in the future, Mr. Oliver's indicated that he doesn't want to do this as part of this project, but if it were to be done in the future, it could only be eligible for TIF funds if it is included in the term sheet in the RDA.
Correct.
If it's not
Absolutely.
spelled out in those documents, it will not be ever eligible for TIF funds.
Right. So here's another little bit of a challenge is that normally the board at the outset of the TIF process gets a TIF eligibility report that says this is why it's eligible for TIF, and then 2, here's the redevelopment plan and project. And in a very broad stroke, here's what the ceiling is on the money that's going to be spent on it. The money's going to be spent on infrastructure and so on. And so yes, to emphasize Cledit's point, if you want the ability to obtain tax increment from this development, it has to be part of the TIF. It's got to be a part of the plan and the project with money allocated to it. We just can't say, let's leave it alone for now. Let's see what happens in the future with McDOT. No, you would have to go back and create an amendment and do the whole thing over again. That is a material amendment to the plan and project that requires a whole new process. A new joint review board meeting, the taxing districts get notified. There's other amendments to a TIF district that don't require that. If you're going to remove a parcel, as happened in the city of McHenry, the mayor's property was in the TIF, he became mayor, the city removed it, and there was very little effort to do so. You didn't have to have all the taxing districts agree. It's immaterial to it. I consider Salem Avenue to be a material aspect of this, and I think that the village may want this in as part of the original plan of the project, rather than seeking to add it later on and try to get approval if it's even eligible to be TIF'd. Which I don't know if that's going to be the case or not in the future, as compared to now. So I think that's the fundamental difference. There may be other minor ones, but not that I'm aware of. I think that the other request I was aware of was the additional time for demolition. I can't think of anything else.
If we vote and say yes, which one are we voting on?
And that was going to be my point. I feel like we have to vote on this one unless we amend it, right, to what he's just giving us tonight. So if we're voting on this, Mike Oliver, I feel like I would vote no because it's the wrong term sheet that we were provided on Friday. And I really think, I just think, I would not motion to approve this as it is on the agenda tonight, and I think that also gives you a little opportunity, because again, I do still have a problem with you not talking to any of the other taxing bodies, specifically the school, right? I think the school and the fire department at least deserve to have a conversation with what your regional benefits are going to be that you're asking us to approve. And I want to say yes, but I feel like I would say no tonight, and I don't.
And I feel the same. I'm not opposed to what you're asking here necessarily. It's just, again, I don't think
I'm not.
this is the right...
I'm following. I'm following all of the Salem, and those are my two problems. One problem is I don't feel like that we've had a real opportunity to look at the actual proposed term sheet that you want tonight.
I agree.
And I think that you should reach out to, even reach out to the board members. You can talk to them individually about what benefits you're talking about that are coming to the board, and that I'm not even opposed to having a special meeting if that's what we needed to do. If the village president wanted to call a special meeting to just put this on the agenda, and if they wanted to attend that board meeting, they for sure could during public comment. if they had a problem with something that you described to them in the term sheet.
I mean, and we could work to arrange the meeting, right?
Yeah.
I just think those two things would give me the yes vote, right? And just get it approved.
So I agree. I think at the very least, we need to figure out which version we're voting on.
So I've been reading through a lot of this here, and the one that you handed out today versus this one that we all have, I didn't read the whole thing, but a lot of the stuff that is highlighted in blue and even the stuff that's in red is added in here, but black. And there's only 3 things that are still in this one that you handed us that are red and struck out, one being the 2 to 6 months, and then the other 2 are page 3, number 7, section 1, which is the part about the village in Salem. And then the other one was the one, that was page 2 that Michael commented on, number 6, section A, about less those incremental taxes collected against the property, that statement. So everything else that's in this is in this, but black. So I don't know if that means that this is the newest version, but there's 2 things in there that aren't what we added.
It's not the version that we have had for the last couple of days to study.
Well, I'm just trying to help clarify which one I think is which, but I'm just telling
When I got back, I came back and I saw one that had every color in the rainbow, and the latest one that I saw incorporated, like you're saying, all the rainbow colors, made it all black because it was all accepted from what I gathered. And Matt, my TIF attorney, made there's like 3 red lines.
So the only problem, I think, to their point is everything that was added is added almost like you're saying, being accepted except for those things, and we're getting that now. So I'm assuming that this is the one that would be voted on, which is we're just got.
Yeah. You want me to say that?
And so Josh said it, he said it, I agree, and I like a lot of this. I like, I want to help make you move forward, but getting this today and not talking to the school it's almost like I would like a little time, have a meeting if we can or whatever, and then, I don't know.
Obviously Michael's anxious.
Yeah.
Would the board consider, this is unusual, would the board consider making this TIF term sheet contingent upon securing approval of, and this is my fault, I left out reference to the fire district, but school board, fire district, county, and township. Library district.
Just like verbal approval?
Well, to say, we'll approve this version that you guys have had for a few days, but it would be subject on approval of those governmental entities, and then 2, for the development team to come back and say, would you consider also coming up with a split? I don't know if the village is very enthused about waiting to see if there is $5 million of increment 18 years from now. Would that be something that the board would have an interest in?
I mean, it would make me more comfortable.
But does Mike want us to approve this tonight?
The blue one, absolutely not.
Right.
So then are we just...
that's my point, right? So this one from 707, you want us to approve this, and I don't feel comfortable, right, approving something that I got after the meeting began, right? That's what I'm saying.
So
give us your best copy, and we will vote on that. And I still think that you should come back to the meeting and say, I spoke with the board members, officially, unofficially, they know that there's a meeting where we're going to vote on this.
So let me, I agree with you, and Keith, and what I'm saying is I would not want to vote on the blue markup version, because I think in mind that that's not what we're seeking, right? We're seeking the red markup version, so I would not want to vote on that. And it seems like everybody needs a chance to review the red line version, the cleaner red line version. We can have discussions with schools, are we going to require that the school board approves it prior to approving the TIF term sheet?
I don't need their approval.
I just want a conversation.
That's it. I think they need an opportunity to know what you're doing and give you the opportunity to sell what your terms are that are going to benefit our community.
My wife teaches in Johnsburg Elementary, so we know a couple of them. So
Yes.
I can have some phone calls.
They have
and
public phone numbers.
I think we need to get on the same page with the latest and greatest. So is there a way to just table until we get the latest and greatest in front of everybody? I can call a couple of school board members.
Well, if nobody motions, right, then it...
No, I mean, it's
bring it
just,
back at the next
without
meeting.
getting into procedure, just would that be the consensus of the board to carry this over to the next meeting to enable Mike to reach out to the school district and the other taxing bodies?
Yes.
Do we want to have a special meeting in between to
That
facilitate?
might be a timing issue. It's only 2 weeks between that.
Tommy's got a meeting next week too with the Monsanto, so we're going to have more information. It's probably more effective. You'll have more information in front of you for earlier.
Yeah, ideally, we would have some more answers.
So does Mike have do you feel you have enough time to go to the school board and the taxing people?
Yeah,
And get some feedback so everybody is comfortable? That's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
I've met with Brett Hines. Is that correct?
Brent.
Yeah,
Brett,
he from the
Brett.
fire
It
district.
was a bit ago. It was 8 months ago, but he was very supportive of the project. We didn't talk about TIF, but just the project in general. So I could absolutely meet with him, a couple school board folks that we know, come back and let you know how those conversations go. My ask, though, is this to the board, is that I truly feel that everyone's excited about the project, and I don't want to be the only one selling the project to the taxing bodies. I think it's important that you guys have vocalized, almost every single one of you, how you're in massive support of the project, and I think that coming from you means a lot more coming from me.
Knowing, educating myself on these processes with the TIF as well, and knowing this, I will tell you that I will have some conversation with some school board members as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And to Claudette's point, yes, we have a big time meeting every week.
Well,
I
I think-
apologize for the confusion. I took a vacation, first one since Christmas, and got a little jammed up.
So, I think that helps that Mike's going to talk to the school board, but I think we got to talk to other people too. And I think Mike, you can talk to Brett from the fire district, but I think, their board has to be aware of it, not just the chief or the district chief. And I
And it's
think,
like
yeah.
Annie Mulvaney will
Yeah.
have to be talked to ahead of time.
Tom definitely is. He's going to be the...
But Mike is offered to do all that, and then I think, huh?
So I can talk to a few of them.
Yeah, and everybody else could. I don't think the school district is the biggest one problem that would not be, they're the biggest one affected, but I think there's more of that community and those people that would know about it. Okay, so I think it's good to talk to them, but I think that, like the fire district, the library district, they all deserve to be aware of it, because that's the concern, okay? So as many of those people that can be talked to by Mike, and, I think that's all helpful when we come back in 2 weeks. Plus Claudette said that there's more information coming from McDonough in the next week or so.
Right.
Okay, so, that's a good plan, and whatever we can help with, we'll help with. We're excited about it. I think everybody's excited about it, so how do we help them? But let's come up with a plan, so we don't have another 2-hour meeting if we don't need it, because we know what the plan of attack is. So you're not running your tail off.
So then for Mike, what does he need to deliver to us?
I think the first thing that has to be delivered is that we all have a chance to look at that final sheet that he presented, and if it's totally different than what Michael approved, we have to get that worked out right away.
Yeah, I would just like to understand that both sides have signed off on it being...
Yeah, just understand, this isn't a question of Mike's counsel and me arguing about language, no. I mean, it's a fundamental issue that is, I don't think there's an issue about drafting it or anything like that. This is a policy decision. And the question's going to be, and Mike, this may evolve, but what Mike is telling the village tonight is they want 100% of that first 16 million. And then, after that point, we would be left with whatever increment may be left over, if any. So I don't think it's so much the attorney is going back and forth and drafting, but it's a fundamental
decision as to whether or not we're
That's the-
amenable to that.
That's the big question.
Yeah, that is absolutely the reason I wouldn't want to vote on the blue line versus red line version.
Yeah.
Well, and I would just like for you to send, like Claudette or whoever, that whatever copy you want us to approve at the meeting.
Well, we need it not at the 11th hour.
Yeah.
Ahead.
Preferably not.
Yeah, I was
So
like,
we
right,
know where
we get it, that's 3 days before or whatever.
And I think that can be done.
So then, I mean, again, I agree, that is kind of a fundamental question here. Do we need to give Mike an answer tonight as to whether or not we're acceptable to say, we're going to allow you to get 100% out until you're paid off, and then we can start to see money being returned to the village for their portion? Because again, I know that I'm not fond of that. And we can figure out some percentage breakout, but to say 100%, I don't.
It would require, just so we're clear and on the same page, redoing that entire gap analysis, because if we end up doing a split, maybe instead of it being 18 and 3/4 years, maybe it's all 23 years because there's some sort of split. I know that our projections, you can imagine the amount of math and numbers that go into this, so I know that is what we're requiring to make the project feasible.
That gets you to your 15% anticipated IRR. Just getting that 100% back.
So moving that around, moving the priority, I took the computer screen down with that little sliver of land. Michael has said a few times that maybe there'll be TIF increment after year 18 and 3/4 years. If I get my 16.4 over 18 and 3/4 years, pretty good chance there's a lot more coming on year 19, 20, 21, 22, right? So
We would be looking for you 18 years from now.
I'll still be here, Michael, and I'll still be pushing. No, I sincerely apologize for the confusion with the latest version. Circle back and get that to the board. Everybody.
Thank you.
Okay, but again, back to, are we agreeable to that point or not?
Because there's not going to be any change.
Yes. Yes.
I think we're going to send you this.
But I think what Josh is saying is the majority of us agreeable with that point he just made with the payback.
100% payback going to Mike
Right.
until he's paid off.
So are we all okay with that? Or, because I think it's critical for Mike to know that, or we're going to be back here hashing it out again.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
I'm fine with
Scott's fine?
Fine.
Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I want to read it a little more and try and justify it
Well,
in
I'm
my
just trying to
mind.
give direction
I know.
here.
So,
Okay?
yeah.
So you're fine with that?
I'm okay.
Okay.
And like I said, I think there are regional benefits that we're going to get right away, that he's going to put the money for. Does
I
it
just don't want to
justify
send them
waiting?
down the road,
Yeah.
without having an understanding, that's all. And JD?
Yes.
Okay. So we're all agreeable with what he's got there?
I mean, I would not be agreeable with 100%.
Right. But you said that. You stated that.
I'm just restating that as we're going down the line.
Okay.
Again, we can come up with some relatively small percentage, but 100%, I don't think I would be agreeable to that.
So that's where we're at right now. You know, Josh has got a concern. I don't want to send Mike on a wild goose chase without having that worked out. And it seems like everybody else is agreeable to it. So, anything else? So we need the agreement rewritten the way you and Michael's attorney has agreed, so.
And I think there's going to be very few changes.
Okay, so we don't have a rainbow copy, it's all in black. Mike Falk said he looked at most of it, we went over that and said, okay, you don't think there's many changes. We're all pretty much agreeable with the terms of the payout except Josh, okay? I just want to make sure that if we're going to send them out and redo this, that we come back, we're not discussing all this in a couple of weeks, and understand that we have to get some input from the school district, which Mike is volunteered to talk. And I may be naive, but I don't really think, I understand the school district's the largest one. I really don't, I really think they're pretty much aware of the project, but I understand Keith's point that we own the courtesy. Right? And then whatever we can help you with the other people.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
But I think the library board might want a presentation, the school board might want a presentation. I don't know when they meet, but whatever we can do before that next meeting to give them some input, I think would make everybody here more comfortable. So does somebody want to add things to have a plan of action?
I just have one more clarification. So if we're not anticipated to get reimbursed until the end of the TIF, does that mean that we have to bond the project? Because we're putting up all the money in the front. So we're going to have to go out and get a bond to pay for the road.
If you did
it's
it,
realigned.
if you did it prior to the 18, or prior to the increment being available.
Which I like
Year
to
18 would.
And that's presuming it is included in the TIF, because if it's not included in the RDA, we can't do it.
Just so we're all clear.
And we still got the problem with getting the property up to, we have to include relocate.
Working on that.
Okay, good. Okay, perfect. I just want to read all the wheels in motion, so not hashing it out. Any other concerns that we want to address in order to have a direction here? Anything you can think of, Mike?
I'm good. I appreciate everyone's support and willingness to talk with the locals in town that are on either the school board or fire district or taxing bodies. The last thing I'll say again, I'm learning as I go through this process, right? I know we're talking big dollars and stuff. It kind of hit me a few months ago when light bulb went off that it's not really costing the village of Johnsburg all that much tax dollars because all these other taxing bodies are who gets it anyway, right? So it's, I don't know, I think it's a slam dunk for a TIF for this property. It's unique, it's different. But again, appreciate everybody's time and support and communicating with the other taxing bodies.
Well, let us know who you need help with, okay?
Appreciate it.
Okay. Move to go into closed session to discuss pending litigation related to the state act versus the village of Johnsburg. JD, you have a motion to do it?
Yeah, make a motion.
Second?
A second.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Sylvanus, seconded by trustee Falk, to go into closed session on the roll. Trustee Hagan abstained. Trustee Sylvanus. Trustee Von Allen.
Aye.
Trustee Falk.
Aye.
Trustee Lester. Motion carried.
No, that's Ron. That's my service manager.
Oh my God, shoot.
We have a couple of those trucks. Scott, it happens a lot because he lives in McHenry. Okay. He goes that way to work.
Ed, the camera's still running. Did you want it still running?
But if it is, it's not a big deal. Let's just talk about it.
Can you go over and hit the up switch so that thing goes up? date.